Well, let's have a look at Level 2 for May of 2021. For those of you who are registered for May, I've taken so much time with the 2020 Level 2 candidates only because of what's been going on this year that I've been ignoring the fact that there are new people coming into the system all the time, and your first chance at Level 2 is May. So let's put you on a track that makes a lot of sense. So on this screen, I'm going to talk to candidates who are just coming into Level 2 and plan to write it in May. You've managed to avoid all of the delays for 2020, so you got lucky on that one. So if you were thinking, should I have written in May of 2020? In June of 2020? Well, you couldn't have, so you're right where you should be. You have 250 days. The exam window is May 25th to May 29. So the exam's not in June anymore, it's in May. Right at the end of May, 250 days to the day before the exam window begins. And I'm going to take off 35 days for review at Level 2. I take off 28 for Level 1, and I've always taken off 28 for Level 2, but I think you would be better served, being that you have so much time right now, by planning to have 35 days of review in there. That's 215 days left. That's about 31 weeks. So let's put it in terms of what you have to do per week. 48 readings. So about 1.5 readings per week. That's a good pace. That's more than doable. In fact, I would say you even have some time before you have to start, because that is not an onerous pace. The main important point that you can take away from this right now, time is your friend right now. If you wait till December or January, time is going to work against you. You're going to feel stress, and you do not learn well under stress, and you cannot learn in a hurry. This is a nice pace. Just a word of warning here. If you are going to start your studies later on, if you buy a subscription now, it's the same price as if you buy it a month from now, but starting October 21st, our Level 2 price is going to go up $25 to $365 Canadian. Right now it's $340. So if you want to save the $25, you can buy access at any time before October 20th. You don't have to start till November if you don't want to start till November, but I'm just letting you know that there's $25 on the table there if you want to grab it soon. So I've heard an argument that goes along the lines of this. It's way too early to start because you're going to forget the content by the time the exam comes anyways. Now that's true of any time you start. So let's say this is May over here. This is the exam. I'll put in E for exam, and here's our timeline. Here we are today, and let's say this is midway through. Let's say this is beginning of January, and somebody says it's better to start here because if you start way back here, you're going to forget. So you start with the first reading, the second reading, and you keep going all the way to the end. You get to the 48th reading. These first 10 readings to 15 readings, you're going to forget everything anyways. It doesn't matter when you start. If you don't plan for reviews, you're going to forget it anyways. I would argue that in this time period, you don't have time for review. There is a higher probability of you forgetting things here because you simply don't have the time to slice in the reviews that you need in between learning new content. You have to continually review the older content. So that you would saying that you're going to forget things is more likely in here. This is I'm going to show you a great technique for remembering, which really doesn't take a lot of time. When you do your first reading, and a reading is a chapter. So let's say you're in quant, the first reading is simple linear regression. And you learn that reading. And a reading, it means you're going to do the reading and you're going to work the end of chapter questions. That's part of the reading, especially for quantitatively driven topics. And Level 2 is heavy on valuation. I don't know that you're going to get to a reading that doesn't have some quantitative component to it at all. You have to work it. You can't just read math and say, okay, I got it, I'm good. You have to work it. So after you're done the reading and the end of chapter questions, the very next day, you're going to do a 10 to 15 minute review. So when you're done the reading on your Google Calendar, the very next day, you can schedule a 10 to 15 minute reading. 7 days later, 7 days after the reading, you schedule another review that's 5 to 10 minutes. And then every 3 weeks, you schedule a 5 to 10 minute review of that reading. Then you move on to the next reading, and you do the same thing. It's the reading and the end of chapter questions. Once you're done, Stagger all your reviews. You can go in your calendar and just put all of your reviews in place right away. You will find that by the time you get to February and March, all your reviews are set for you. That your day, you'll look at your days and you say, well, there's no time to learn. It's all reviews. Exactly. Just in time for those 5 weeks of review before the exam, you've populated your review calendar. It automatically is populated for you, and you'll find that you really don't need that much review because you have reviewed on a regular basis. Leave it to this period of time. You don't have time to intersperse your learning with review. And it is review that leads to retention because repetition leads to retention. You'll learn something, and I'll show you a little graph, which is a very common graph in learning theory. And let's say that you learn something, and this is what your learning looks like, and there's 100% of what you know. Not 100% of the reading, you don't know 100%, but 100% of what you know. And we'll put a little timeline here like this, and 1 day later, it starts doing this. 2 days later, you're down to here. By the time you get to 3 or 4 days later, you're about 10%. You can only really remember about 10% of the stuff you learned. However, if you stick a review, the very next day, you get to do this. This is what your knowledge looks like. And then you'll have a bit of a longer period before it starts to decay. That's why you hit it 7 days later. And then it'll boost it up again. And you'll keep the amount of knowledge in your mind. You'll be able to retain it. Each review means you can go a longer period of time before you review again without losing it. That's how we retain things, so that when you get to your review period, you will find, surprisingly, you'll say, you know what, I got all this, I'm good. No stress. That's how we learn the best, when we don't have stress. And you move on to the next reading and you structure reviews, etc., etc. When you get closer to the exam period and you want to move from retention to mastery and you want to start to consolidate all that knowledge, there's where you're going to hit the Q banks and the mock exams. CFAI for level 2 has quite a few questions available for you, and on our site mm.com, I think at level 2 we have some 2,500 questions across the roughly 50 readings, 48 readings. So some readings have 30 or 40 questions, some have 80 or 90 questions. Then you'll want to do the mock exams. CFAI gives you mock exams, and on our site we have mock exams, and we since it's online, our mock exams will be online and will simulate exactly the experience that you're going to get in the exam, which means as you're doing the questions, you'll be able to highlight certain sections. The features that we're building in are the same features you would see in the exam that you're going to write. The ability to look at your answers and strike some out so that you can strike through. So I'll eliminate A, I'll eliminate B. So you can highlight the vignette, you can strike through things. You can flag questions that are unanswered so that when you get to the end, rather than looking through your whole exam to see what you missed, you just have to click the flag and it'll cycle through all of the questions in order that you have flagged and bring you right to where it is. Isn't that nice? It saves you all that time of having to look for, well, what I miss, flipping the pages, right? So we're going to try to simulate that online. And I believe that we're probably going to be one of the few, and one of the only ones, that will actually have that in our mock exams. So there you go. Main message here, you got time. You got 215 days, 31 weeks, which means you have no stress learning ahead of you. You have lots of time to intersperse these reviews in there as well. One more thing that I'll add, because you have time, because you have this luxury of time. A lot of learning theory states that the more original your learning is, the better your retention. So reading something in a book is not very original. Working problems is not very original. But developing something on your own is original. Applying it in the real world is original. So what you can do, if you can't apply any of this in the real world, is you can watch Bloomberg. You can listen to other people doing it. Because if you watch Bloomberg every morning, I've been stressing this a lot, that if this is the game that you want to play for the rest of your life, start playing it now. If you follow a sports team, how many hours do you dedicate to watching your team play over the course of the year? Well, this is the same thing. You got to start watching your team play. Which means, Bloomberg is in several markets. Pick the market that you're in and start watching. you'll be amazed at how much you pick up. You'll be amazed at how much the content actually applies directly in the real world. And you'll hear, they have analysts on every morning from different firms, and you'll hear how they look at the market and what they find important. You can agree with them or you can disagree with them. I disagree with quite a few that are on. I think you're talking up your own book, but you'll be in a position to do that. Get addicted, my friends. Anyways, this is for those who are new to Level 2 for May of 2021. For those of you who are scheduled to write for December but are going to defer till next year, let's look at your strategy. Okay, so this is, again, I'm speaking to candidates who are going to be writing for May 2021. You have deferred from 2020, so I'm not going to make the argument for you if you're already scheduled for December. I'm not going to make the argument of, should you write in 2021 or 2020. I'm really just talking to those who are going to write in May of 2020. Everything is the same up here. Time is your friend. However, you've already got a big dent already done in the content. It's not as if you're starting right from zero or right at the beginning of your journey. You're 60, 70, 80% of the way through your journey. So you're going to write in May. I've recommended this before when the June exam was canceled and you were heading into the December exam. I recommended a taper strategy because the content is not going to change from 2020 to 2021. That if you were going to make a run for December on Level 2, you could make a run for Level 3 in May by following a tapering strategy, which means doing 2 levels at the same time. If you're 60 to 70% of the way through the content at Level 2, you do not need until May to prepare. So you have lots of time. Follow a tapering strategy. You're going to write L2 in May and you're going to write L3 in November and be done with it. But rather than wait for the end of May or beginning of June when you're done the exam here to begin to start Level 3, you'll start somewhere back here to prepare for Level 3. But you'll do it in a way that feeds back on Level 2. So Book 3, Book 6, and Book 4. And when I say Book 3, you know that the content comes in 6 volumes, 6 books each year. Level 1 has 6 books, Level 2. Same with Level 3, it has 6 books. In Book 2, you have the topics asset allocation, derivatives, and currency management. And 3 readings, 2 readings, and 1 reading. In Book 6, you have a whole reading on institutional investor IPS. A reading on manager selection, a reading on performance evaluation, and a reading on trade strategy and execution. All of this one here, not so much manager selection, unfortunately, but those 3 feed back really nicely on the portfolio management section at Level 2. So you can start with Book 3 and Book 6 over the course of whichever time period you want. If you're going to write Level 3 in November of 2021, it is the 2020 content. So it's not as if you have to wait for new content to be released. It is out. It is this year's content. I highly recommend the taper strategy on this one. Book 4 is also interesting as well. You have 1 reading on hedge funds, 1 reading on asset allocation to alternative investments, and you have 5 readings on private wealth management, which is the same as individual investment. So there's the individual IPS along with taxes and concentrated positions and risk management, things like that. Not a lot of feedback onto Level 2, but it is a long book. The readings are long, and there's a whole bunch of tiny little detail in there. I think the first 2 readings are rather long, and again a lot of detail in there as well. You may want to get that one out of the way. But I would seem to think that Book 3 and Book 6 give you your best edge, because you'll be preparing for Level 3, and these do feed back onto Level 2, which will give you a better understanding of Level 2. It'll help you better prepare for Level 2 while you're preparing for Level 3. So that means once you write in May and you get into June, you've done a third of Level 3. Actually, you've done more, because Book 1 is ethics. The only new reading in there, or the 2 new readings, GIPS you got to dive into, and the Asset Manager Code you got to dive into. But you'll have ethics down. So you'll basically be done 40% of Level 3 by the time you finish your Level 2. Look, man, you're going to make a nice run for November. You'll be done before next Christmas. You'll have it all wrapped up. So if you have deferred from December to May, you can still finish on 2020 content, both Level 2 and Level 3. If you're writing in December for Level 2, then I still recommend, after the exam is over, don't wait. Start on level 3 right away in December, which is sort of a taper strategy because you're going to start on level 3 before your results are out. But again, I really want to keep this for our level 2 May 2021 candidates. You have the time now. You could wrap all of this up by next November. So be diligent about it. But again, with this kind of time, you're not stressed. You have the time to follow a taper strategy. Anyways, I'll leave that with you. Just keep in mind, as of October 21st, our prices are going up $25. Even at level 3, they're going up $25. So the section prices will go up as well, but you'll be buying for 2021. If you think that you want some of the content for level 3 and follow the taper strategy, as long as you get it in before October 21st, you'll be fine. But on October 21st, it's a small price increase, really, $25 per level. But I just want to put it out there so you don't get surprised on the 21st and say, I don't remember this. That's it.